was started. So with the first round, they'd go for the ink thing. When they fall, Christian pulls out a wired kunai, sticks it into the wall, and pulls himself forward, grabbing Stardust and Boruto while Mitsuki holds him up, while he uses chakra on the wall. But then he starts to lose grip and throws them against the wall, and they use the kunai they stick a kunai all the way in and hold themselves up. Then they use their own chakra to stick to the wall. He says, "Wow, that Team 7's really good." Wait, no, we have to go to the Thunderburger part. Forgot, we have to go to the Thunderburger part. So when they're there, the Hidden Cloud Village goes, that stupid Gumboy is talking smack about Boruto, and Christian just body flickers and sits down. He says, "Hi." Sarada goes, "Jeez, when did you get here?" He says, "Literally a second ago." He says, even the Hidden Cloud Ninja are shocked. They're like, "How did he just get here?" He says, "Oh, hi. You're talking smack about my friend? I'll make you bleed till it hurts. We turn in out." Yeah. If you're talking smack about Boruto, then you're gonna regret it. He says, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" Christian says, "I'm not gonna do anything. He's gonna clap your cheeks. Isn't that right, Gumboy?" Mr. Gumboy looking at. Trying to copy Killer Bee. Killer Bee is uncopied. He is the best. So he says, "At least you acknowledge him. I really don't care." He goes, "Wow." Well, back to the exam. After that, they do the flag battle the next day. Well, actually, no, after doing it, he goes, then he'd head home. Sakura asks them if they did it, and they say yes. He says, "How'd you guys do it?" He says, Sarda says that first things first, Christian threw a wired kunai at the wall and then pulled himself forward. Then he grabbed us two, me and Boruto, and threw us against the wall. Kind of. Then Mitsuki grabbed him. Well, actually, we grabbed onto his leg. Then, after that, Mitsuki pulled us up a little bit. Then we all just used our chakra to stand up on the wall. He says, "That's smart way to use your exercises." She goes, "Tomorrow's the exam, right?" He goes, "Yep." The next part. It's a flag battle, I heard. Christian goes, "Yep." So basically, when the flag battle starts, Christian will go off with Sarda and Mitsuki while Boruto watches. But really, Christian is just watching Boruto because he knows he's gonna slip up. So then, when Boruto is getting attacked, he destroys most of the clones there and says, but then Boruto uses some kind of weird device. He uses something weird. He sees it with a glimpse of his Sharingan, then disappears and destroys the rest of the clones while Boruto does the same. Christian says, "After this thing, we're gonna have a talk, Boruto." He goes, And he's kind of scared because he thought he knew, because he thinks he might have known that he had the scientific ninja tool, because the Sharingan can see that. Then, after that, Sarda would get in, Mitsuki would get the flag, and then they'd win the round. Then he says, "Boruto, can I come home with you? I need to talk to you. This is important." He goes, "Okay." When he does, he comes home with Boruto. Sakura says, "Where's Christian?" He says, "At Boruto's house. He has some questioning to do on him, because something doesn't seem right with Boruto." He goes, "Okay, it might be just him paranoid." Then when he does this, he instantly walks in Boruto's room with Boruto and doesn't even let him do what he wants to do. He says, "Boruto, pull up both your wrists. Pull up both your sleeves right now." He says, "What do you need to?" He says, "Do it." He goes, "Fine," and pulls them both up, and he says, "What is this?" He goes, it's just an accessory." He says, "Really? Then how did you use lightning style by putting your hand behind your back? It's not even possible. And also, how'd you create that water with barely any water there? You created that much water." why? You could have done, this is a tournament about your, but then when he's about to say something, he closes the door so no one can hear them. He says, look, I'm not going to get you in trouble, but this needs to stop. You cannot do that. It doesn't matter if you want to impress your dad. You have to be strong. You know what would be really good? You beat the strongest competitor there, which I think is that Shinky guy. If you can beat him without the ninja tool, he will probably be very impressed with you. Way more impressed than he is if he finds out that you're using a scientific ninja tool. Remember, in the final exam, your mom also has the Byakugan. She can see through your hand. And if you start to act suspicious, your dad's gonna ask your mom to activate the Byakugan, and they're gonna see that thing. So there's no point in using it. Also, what is that gonna give you in a boost? It's really just gonna make you weaker. Because you're always gonna rely on that. You're gonna forget your own skills. He goes, fine. Then he leaves. Then Boruto puts it in there and says, in his head, I'm gonna use it. I need this to impress my dad. But then he walks back in and says, also, if you use that thing again, I won't hesitate to say anything. And if you especially use it in our match, I will never, ever forgive you. I want a normal match. Final match. Not some mock match where you just cheat. Goodbye. Then he body flickers back home and doesn't talk when he gets home. Then instantly just goes to his room and lays down his bed and goes, Sakura knocks on his door saying, hey, are you okay? He goes, no. He says, yep, actually I'm fine. He goes, okay, I'll leave dinner at your door. He goes, okay. Then about an hour later, he gets dinner and eats it going, okay, that's a little cringy. So after eating dinner, he just goes out to train a little bit. Then Sasuke comes along, back to the village. He says, hello. He goes, oh, hi. He says, are you okay? He goes, Tadema, aka, I'm home. He goes, hi. Then Sakura passes out, but he walks to his room. He says, I could use my Rinnegan to get the truth out of him. Maybe he's not. He says, I guess we could do that. Then Sasuke knocks on the door saying, hey, I'm coming in. He goes, fine. Then he says, are you okay? You don't seem okay at all. He says, I'm fine. Then he uses the Rinnegan on him to tell the truth. He says, are you okay? He says, breaking through, going into a Sharingan, saying, I'm fine! He goes, wow, he can break through that? Then he runs out of the house angrily. He says, stupid, stupid, stupid! Running fastly and angrily out of the outskirts of the village, going, Then Sakura asks Sarada to follow him to see what he's doing. And Sarada agrees and watches him. Then he'd get back home a couple hours later. After needing to take a walk, he's all calm. Then, basically, he comes back home with an open mind, happy. He goes, are you okay now? He says, yes, I just need to take a walk. She goes, okay. Then the next day is the exam day. It's like the fighting day. When it starts, he goes, then he jumps to the left. And he jumps up in the air going, woohoo! And it's his first fight with Shinky. He goes, great, sand dude for anything. Gara says, Naruto, this gives you deja vu, doesn't it? He goes, yep. Sakura says, I remember this. Tamari says, I know, it's like Sasuke versus Gara again. He goes, when it starts, he activates the Sharingan, and Shinki would shoot Black Iron, and he'd jump to the right. He goes, He says, maybe if I could... He goes, fire style, majestic destroyer flame! I'm burning his iron. Also hitting him in the process, but not doing a lot, because of how weakened the fire was after burning it. He goes... He goes, I hear my female turn. I need my healing hand. Then he's charging up his hand signs, going, another, and then shoots a dragon flame. It hits the iron, but it's not really doing anything. He has to jump over the hands. Going, Then he says, Chidori! Cutting right through the sand and hitting him. He goes, spitting out blood after blood. He goes, Then he says, looks like that jutsu wasn't even strong enough. He goes, Then creates a Rasengan. Then he goes and rushes out and going, they say Rasengan? He goes, Then he shoots Black Iron at him. He goes, and right when Sakurai says, dodge! But then he's about to get hit, but then he goes, then he appears in the air above him going, Flying Raijin, level 3! Hitting him with a Rasengan. He goes, Then he backflips, going, Shinki goes, he's good. Christian says, time to use more techniques on him. Then he throws 300 lightning shuriken, going, Shinki blocks them with his iron sand. Then he pulls them back and launches them in a different rotation method. They all stab him from behind. He goes, he says, Naruto, your student is good. All the other Kage say, except for Naruto and Gaara, they say, student? He goes, yeah, he asked me to train him a lot. So then I trained him a lot. He goes, Kagabushi! Then they all rush him. He says, Demon Wind Clone! Demon Wind Bomb! Throwing the Demon Wind Shuriken, but it's also his clone. Then the clone goes and beats the crap out of Shinki. He goes, He goes, I've used up a lot of chakra. Maybe I can use something to conserve it. He goes, I got it. He goes, Rasengan! Then he goes, and basically, because the Rasengan is stronger than what it took away from his chakra, so he replenishes more chakra than anything. He goes, he feels a little bit better, and throws a kunai square between Shinki's eyes, going, He does, but his sand blocks it. He goes, here goes nothing. Then he throws a shuriken at him. He says, there's no way it's gonna hit. But then he throws another shuriken that hits it. So then it goes... So it goes flying and cuts Shinki in the face. He goes... He says, Lord Seventh, what did you teach him? He says, I didn't teach him that. He says, yes, I did, actually. Then he goes... Then he body flickers below him, going, Rasengan! Boom! And defeats him. And goes, and he goes, make him bleed till it hurts. We turn it off. But then black sand covers him and he goes up into the sky. He goes, damn it. Then he body flickers below him, knocking him straight out with the next chop. He goes, cool. He says, Shinki is out. The next match, Boruto Uzumaki versus... I'm just going to skip the quarterfinals because I don't really care. We're going on to the semifinals, so there's only 4 left. There's Christian, Sarada, Boruto, and Shikadai. first match is Christian versus Sarda. And the next one is going to be Shikadai versus Boruto. Sakura says, go both of you, do your best! Sarda says, I knew Mom couldn't choose one. He goes, well, she shouldn't, we're both her children. Sasuke roots for both of them as well. They both activate Sharingan because they both have two Tomoe. Then they both disappear. Then clashing Kunai, he goes, then he goes, I don't like it. Then he goes for a lightning blade, aka Chidori. He goes, ah. Sarda would use her own lightning fist, and then they'd clash. He goes, ah. But then the Chidori would actually overpower and go, ah. Then he goes, then they'll say, fire style, fireball jutsu. Then he body flickers behind and kicks Sarda forward. He goes, ah. Sakura says, that body flicker technique he's had since he was a kid. Then he goes, ha ha ha, fire style, dragon flame jutsu. Sarda dodges and throws shuriken. Then he throws his own, and then they start to spam shuriken. Sasuke says, I remember this. It was my fight with Itachi. He goes, ra, 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 ra. Then he goes, Uchiha style, hollow dance. Then disappears with his kunai with fire going, choom, 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 choom. Then he throws a lightning. Then he goes, ah. Then he pins Sarda on the arm. Then he pulls his kunai out so he doesn't hurt her much, because he doesn't want to seriously injure her. Then they both go, fire style. But then Christian does the hits for fireball, but then instantly goes even faster, saying, Sarda goes for fireball. He says, majestic destroy flame. Comes and instantly defeats the fireball and hits her. She goes, ah. Ugh. Then she charges up her biggest ever, but then it turns into a Chidori. She turns her lightning fist into a Chidori. He goes, whoa! Then he goes, ah, Rasengan! Then he goes, ah! And they both clash, going, ah! But when they're about to clash, Sarda puts her hand down, ready to stab him. Sakura put her hand over her mouth, saying that she doesn't want to see one of her kids get killed from their match. Then he appears above her going, flying rising, level 3! He goes, oh! Everyone in the crowd is cheering for both, but they don't know who to cheer for. He goes, ah! And then launches Sarda down. Well, he falls down himself when they're both worn out. But they're still both. They both can still fight. He goes, breathing heavily. Then he says, let's end this. And says, Shadow Clone Jutsu. He creates he says, massive Rasengan. And jumps up in the air going, ah. Sarda goes and creates a giant lightning fist. They go, ah! These two clash, then they go into like a yellow, then there's like a yellow void, that they're a white void. He goes, ah! Kicks Sarda in the face and knocking her out. Then they see is Sarda falling from under. He goes, then he backflips out of there, but lands on the ground, and it's the first one to stand up. He goes, and stands up. He says, the winner is Christian Uchiha. He goes, then he pulls up Sarda, saying, good job, Sarda. He goes, you too. Then Boruto versus Shikadai. Boruto would win because he uses cheats, but they wouldn't find that out yet. Then it's finally the match between Christian and Boruto. Christian throws shuriken, and then he throws another one to pin it, then it spins around and cuts Boruto on the cheek. He goes, dang it! Then Boruto would activate the giant Shadow Clone Jutsu. He goes, Then a ginormous vein appears on his head. He gets so mad, and his Sharingan flares. Then he goes, ah, that's it. Then he says, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Two of them appear, and he goes. He creates a Rasengan. The other one does the shape transformation. The other one does the wind style. He goes, wait, Naruto, isn't that Sasuke's Naruto? He goes, ah. Then it changed the form into a ring. He goes, He says, then he says, Lord Seventh, I'm pretty sure he looks a little mad. He goes, I don't know why he's super mad. He goes, then he appears right in front of Boruto and smashes it right against him. He goes, ah, you baka. He says, baka. He says, Usura, don't get you. Then he sends him. Then a giant explosion comes, and it instantly he's sent flying back. So is Boruto. Boruto goes, Rasengan. Throwing a Rasengan, it disappears and hits him. He goes, ah. But then he does this. He throws one of those shuriken and hits him. He goes, ah. Then he summons a giant wave with the scientific ninja tool. Then he slides on it with his Rasengan and goes, ah, and then sends him up in the sky. He goes, ah, while he's hit with a giant Rasengan. He goes, then he says, Boruto's Rasengan is small. I'm getting mad now. Then he goes, and his Sharingan flares, and he's really beating up Boruto angrily. He goes, ah, then he uppercuts him into the sky and goes, and creates a Chidori, and goes, then he jumps up in the air going, Chidori! Rock Lee has to jump in the way and stop it so he doesn't kill him, but he's still forcing the Chidori to go. Then he switches it to a Rasengan and pushes Rock Lee aside going, ah! And then explodes and hits Boruto, defeating him. He goes, with an angry look on his face. Then he turns around and then he says, Christian is the way. Then he says, stop. Then he says, and then he walks out of the stadium angrily. And goes, isn't he happy he won? He says, something's up. Definitely. Then he walks out of the stadium really, really mad. Boruto wants to follow him. Boruto says, hey, are you okay? He says, don't talk to me. I told you not to do it. And what did you do? You did it. Okay, no, he doesn't leave the stadium. He's still there. He turns around angered. Boruto says, hey, good. Then he smacks away Boruto's hand and everyone goes, he goes, don't talk to me. I said I wanted a fair fight. No, you didn't bring it. No, you did not. You, of course, had to cheat. And look where that got you. You still didn't win. Everyone is saying, what is he meaning? Then he pulls Boruto's wrist up and then pulls down his shade, pulls up the thing and says, what the hell is this? I told you not to do that. I even gave you a whole talk saying that it wouldn't impress anybody if with you cheating. And why? So why? Give me one reason. Why? I shouldn't never talk to you again and kill you right now. Give me one reason. That we should never speak again. Then he walks out of the stadium so pissed and everyone's booing Boruto. Then he pulls off his headband saying, I quit being a shinobi. Everyone goes. Then he walks out of the stadium so mad. Sakura is shocked, and so is Sasuke, and so is Naruto, and so are the 5 Kage. So is basically everyone in the stadium. Then he goes, why, Boruto? Why? Shikanai goes. Then he walks out of the village angrily. He He doesn't even want anything. He just runs out of he just walks out of the village. Then a couple of hours later, he sees that the village is in ruins when he comes back. Then he just sits down in the front. Then he runs over and finds it. He says, Doja! He says, Father, what happened? He goes, well, when you left, a giant and Otsutsuki attacked and stole Naruto. He goes, and then he gets even more mad and goes to check the hospital. Then he runs in and says, is anyone here? Then he runs into the office that Boruto is in, and also Hinata. Then he rushes in and says, is everyone here okay? They say, Sarda says, where did you go? He says, I ran out of the village because I wasn't happy. He says, is Mrs. Uzumaki okay? He goes, she's fine. It's just that she was unconscious. She's unconscious, and she's kind of hurt. Himawari gets scared and kind of sad. He said, Gershi kneels down and says, it's okay, Himawari. Nothing. Your mom's gonna be okay. He goes, but what about Sandy? He says, what do you mean? He says, did anyone tell you? Naruto was taken. Then he goes, then his head twitches and so does I. He goes, what? Then he walks out of there. Storms out of there with such rage and anger. And puts a hand on Sasuke's shoulder saying, wherever Naruto is, I'm going. I don't care. He goes, good, get Boruto ready. Then he says, Boruto, let's go. He goes, wait, what? He says, we're going. He says, where? He says, we're going back to get your father. Then they go to the top, and Boruto gets his outfit. He gets the Naruto Uchiha outfit. I'm kidding, he gets the Naruto outfit. Then they're at the top of the stadium. But Christian still has a lack of talking to Boruto. When Boruto tries to tell him something, he says, don't talk to me still. I still don't want to talk to you. After what you did, I don't even want to look at you. But this is how it has to be anyways. He says, look, if you two come, you both need to work together. Because this is how we're going to defeat him. And this is how we're going to get him back. He turned his head saying, fine. When they head into the portal, they'd go. Kuthu, with such rage and anger, sees the guy who's absorbing the Nanitas and goes. He goes. Then punches him straight in the face, going. Then launches him down like a nuke. He punches down Momoshiki. He goes. Then he jumps down and slams his fist into Momoshiki's face. He goes. He goes. But then Momoshiki says, you vulgar creature. Then Kinshiki hears and hits him with his axe. He goes. And hits the thing. He goes. Then he gets even more angry and his Sharingan flares and goes. Rasengan! Hitting him with it. He goes. And goes. Then disappears and kicks him in the face. He says, it's not that Kinshi, it's not the rage boost of power he's getting to defeat that, to even keep up with them. He goes, even with Tsutomu, he's still keeping up. He goes, he's fighting Kinshiki alone. He goes, he says, now you, big guy. You're the one who tried to kill my sister, so now I'm gonna kill you. He goes, Chidori! and hits him, but it doesn't even go pierce through him. He goes, ah! Then he goes, kicking him away. Kinshiki goes for an axe strike and he catches it. And then he breaks the axe. While the 5 Kage are taking on Momoshiki. He goes, then he puts the kunai to his throat, cutting him a little bit. He goes, Chh. Then he punches him far. He goes, he's like a what? He says, not even you are as powerful as this Naruto when we fought him. He says, so what's giving him this giant power? He says, I don't know. Then Kinshiki starts to get really serious and then hits him back. He goes, Argh! But then he gets right back up, even angrier, and punches him again. He goes, Argh! And he goes, ah! Boom, 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 and just keeps on punching him. Sasuke has to try and get him back, to hold him back before Kinshiki actually kills him. Sasuke runs over, and when Kinshiki goes for a strike, he heavenly hand powers him, and then blocks it with the sword. He goes, damn it, why did he pull me back? I was gonna block it. Naruto says, stay here, you kids can't be doing this. He goes, I don't care what any of you adults say. That adult over there was trying to kill my sister, so now I'm gonna kill him. And he tried to hurt my village, so now I'm gonna kill him. He says, if you're gonna attack someone who tried to kill your entire village, then go for Momoshiki. He's much stronger, and he says, and punches him. Get back. Then he punches him so hard that he breaks Momoshiki's jaw. He goes, this kid. Then he'd go and absorb. Then he'd say, Kinshiki, it's time. Then he would absorb and get to his form of Momoshiki that it is in the anime, not the movie or the games. Then he goes and kicks Christian around the stomach. He goes, oh. Then he gets sent flying into the divine tree, kind of. I think it's called. He goes, oh. And that really hurts him. Then Sasuke rushes over saying, are you okay? He goes, but he says, then he takes his pulse and says he's okay, but he's a little bit unconscious. He goes, well, Boruto and the 5 Kage and Sasuke are trying to defeat Momoshiki in his new thing. Then, when Momoshiki is easily destroying Kurama, then they go into the Karasu Sano and trying to fight him. They go, dur, 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 dur. Then, I know they see a bright blue light behind him. He goes, wind style, Rasen ring! Then goes and makes it, and it's Christian from behind, connecting with the giant rock monkey, and goes, and blows it back to smithereens. Then Naruto and Sasuke cut it in half. Then Momoshiki would go for him again, and it's hard to keep up with Momoshiki, even also with his golden Byakugan. Boruto, feeling useless, throws a Rasengan, and it hits Momoshiki. He's trying to box up with them, going, but then all the 5 Kage and Sasuke all get stuck in like a shadow paralysis thing, and then they all get pinned down. He says, Boruto, it's time. We use our all. He goes, so you're ready? You're finally ready. He goes, yes. He activates his Sharingan. It's flaring. He did have a Sharingan, but it wore it out when he got knocked out. He goes, ah! Then he says, fire style dragon flame jutsu. When Momoshiki goes to absorb it, it goes under him and hits him. He goes, boom. I'm kidding. When he shoots it, Boruto throws his Rasengan, which disappears and hits Momoshiki. Then the Dragon Flame hits. He goes, "Nice, you two." He goes, "Katon Gogaku." He goes, instead he does the Majestic Destroyer Flame, going. He says, "No, he's gonna launch that back 10 times powerfuler." But then he disappears and turns into the Majestic Destroyer Flame. Then goes and does the most un-ninja thing. And okay, you know, I want to say it. He does something that Goku did against Majin Buu, and that somehow did a lot. And bites his hand. He goes, "Ah!" Naruto and Sasuke are like, Boruto was even confused. Like, why would he do that? He says, "Now." Then he pulls out a kunai, starts to draw around with his kunai around Momoshiki's Rinnegan hand, and goes, "Oh, I see why he's doing that. He's using that to get on grip he goes, "Get off me, you stupid brat." Then he cuts it. Then he starts to feel his Rinnegan hand getting cut off. His Rinnegan, like the palm in his Rinnegan, feeling it getting cut off. He goes. Then he pulls it off, going, "Ah!" He goes, "Ah!" He says, "Good. Now he has less regenerate." You know, he goes. Then he gets thrown back into the shadow position. But then he says, "Rasengan!" and hits the shadow position. So he goes flying up in the air again. He goes, "Ah!" And he goes, "Fire style, fireball jutsu," doing a decent amount to him, going, "Get back here." Back to this. These two are working together. Also, Urashiki stabbed Mitsuki. So he charges. Then they release him from the shadow possession, and then he charges up a Rasengan. Then Naruto says, "Boruto." Then he puts his hand, putting more chakra into that. Then he says, "Boruto, don't go yet." Christian creates a Rasen ring, a wind-style Rasen ring, and goes, "Do it." He goes, "Here." And then their attacks are huge. He says, "Let's go, Boruto!" And they combine them, creating a humongous. They both jump up in the air, and Momoshiki creates his own, and then they clash. Christian says, "Saturn style ring, wind style shadow." Dang it! Hold on, let me think of a name. They say, "Solar style, Saturn Rasen ring." They go, Then they're both taken to a blue void. Then Momoshiki comes near Boruto. Christian tries to punch him, but he goes right through. He goes, "Those blue eyes will be a curse to you." Then Christian somehow has his phone still, takes a picture of this, and then puts it in his... Takes a picture of the blue thing, and then puts it straight back in, and then they get out of the void. And he says, okay, we're good. Then they return home after defeating Momoshiki. Then Christian says, let me see your hand. He says, guys, there's some kind of mark on his hand. He says, I wonder what that is. He says, also, when we get home, I need to show y'all something at the Hokage's office. They go, okay, and then when they head back, they see that they're all there. He goes and goes, he says, geez, you got all... Charlie says, geez, bro, you got tons of blood on you. He goes, I know. Sarada rushes up and says, are you okay? He says, yep, I'm perfectly fine. He says, now to the Hokage, down to the bottom of the office, because I have important business with Lord Seventh. And also Dad and the Hokage and the Kage. He says, okay, what did you need to talk about? He says, this. And someone goes to the pictures and says, what is... When Boruto was talking about he had a secret eye, this is what he was talking about. He goes, also, Momoshiki, we were in a void with Momoshiki, and he said that those blue eyes would curse him. So what does this mean? So what kind of eye is this? He says, we need to give it some kind of name. Kirsten says, how about the Joagon? That sounds pretty good. He says, sure. And that's it for this.